Hello and welcome to Whispers from the Beyond. I'm your host, Zach. I'm not one for a big intro, so let's get into it. This story comes from Starshinefairy. The Myrtle's Plantation Hauntings. Did anyone else have any experiences there? I've been to the Myrtle's Plantation 3 times and have spent the night twice. I have had a few things happen and was wondering if anyone else ever spent the night and experienced anything. The first time I had slept at the Myrtle's Plantation, we experienced things before it was even nighttime. I went with my fiance and we chose one of the cheaper rooms on the right side of the house. I can't remember the name of the room, but after going up the stairs you took a right and went to the last room on the left. I believe they said a soldier had stayed in there and he had lost a leg or a foot. Anyways, as we got in front of the door, we were overcome with the smell of cigar smoke. It was pungent and overwhelming, almost as if someone was standing next to us smoking one. I asked my fiance if he smelled it and he said yes. It disappeared as quickly as it had come, but I brushed it off thinking maybe someone had snuck a cigar hit in from a different room and we were possibly just catching a whiff of it. While we were walking into the room, I asked my fiance if he knew of the superstition about the upside-down keyholes there and was explaining that it's supposed to prevent spirits from entering the building. As soon as I finished my sentence, my fiance turns on the antique lamp in the room and the bulb explodes. It startled us, but I chalked it up to the lamp just being old. We went to the gift shop and told the lady working that we needed the bulb replaced on the lamp, so she sent a maintenance guy to go replace the bulb. We followed him to the room and he replaced the bulb, but it wouldn't turn on, so he said he had to replace the lamp. We stayed in the room when he left so we could unpack our drinks and snacks from our bag and get ready to explore the grounds. While unpacking, it sounded and felt like someone was hitting a cane against the floor. I could feel the vibrations from where I was standing and told my fiance that something wasn't right. He said that maybe it was someone downstairs in the room below us banging a broom on the ceiling trying to tell us we were walking too loud. The problem with that theory was that there wasn't a guest bedroom below us. In fact, it was the dining room, and there weren't any tours going on, nor were any guests allowed in that section of the house because it was locked up and off limits until the tours. To me, it sounded like someone hitting a cane on the floor to get someone's attention from below. We went outside and into the gift shop and asked the woman if anyone was in the main part of the house and told her what happened. She told us that the room in the main entrance of the house was reserved, but the guests hadn't checked in yet, and that there wasn't anyone in that part of the house, nor could they get into the dining area because things were locked up. We thanked her and didn't make a big deal of it and went exploring. Fast forward to that night. We're both sound asleep until I woke up with the feeling of someone watching me. We had left the new lamp on so we could see if we woke up and had to go use the bathroom. Well, I woke up and I could feel someone watching me. I turned towards my fiance, thinking he was awake and not able to sleep. His eyes were closed and he was in a deep sleep. I sat up and scanned the room until I found the source of what was causing my feeling of being watched. Standing at the end of the bed, about 2 feet from it, I saw a man standing there with smoke swirling in front of his face as if he had just taken a drag of a cigar. I could only see the upper part of his body and he was staring at me. After about 10 seconds of staring back at him, I said, "Nope," and promptly laid my head back on the pillow and pulled the blanket over my head and forced myself back asleep. The next morning, I told my fiance what happened and he asked why I didn't wake him up. I told him I wasn't able to do anything else but to go back to sleep. I didn't want us both to be awake staring at this ghostly man. We left later that afternoon to head home. A year later, we returned to spend the night there, this time choosing a different room. This room was across the hall from the first room we rented, and the only downside was that it was connected to the room in front of the stairs. There was a door inside the room that, if unlocked, you could walk into the other room. We didn't have any experiences this time throughout the day, nor did I wake up that night. Well, we ended up calling it a night around 9 and settled down for bed. There was a small luggage rack in the room, so I placed it beside the bed and put our phones, my eyeglasses, his wallet, and my charger on it. We went to sleep and woke up the next morning. I reached for my glasses and my phone, and I didn't feel anything on the luggage rack. I sat up thinking everything must have fallen on the ground from me maybe bumping it in my sleep. I looked on the ground beside the luggage rack and couldn't find anything, so I woke him up thinking we were robbed. I got up and walked to the bedroom door that separated the rooms, but the lock was still in place. Confused, I turned around and noticed that everything that was on the luggage rack was now scattered in the middle of the room. It was impossible for it to have gotten there unless someone picked everything up and threw it across the room. Everything was intact and nothing was broken, so we decided to just pick it up and go downstairs for breakfast. While eating breakfast, we happened to be sitting across from the people who spent the night in the adjoining room from ours. They asked if we had woken up in the night and if everything was all right. We told them that we'd slept throughout the night and only woke up recently. They told us they heard a bunch of commotion coming from our room and wanted to knock to see if we were okay, but chose not to. They said they never heard us and figured we were asleep until they woke up to the sounds of banging and things being thrown. I told them how our things weren't on the luggage rack whenever I woke up and couldn't figure out why until I noticed everything scattered across the middle of the floor across the room. They said it was so loud and didn't understand how we weren't woken up from it. We didn't understand either. The floors are old wooden floors, so the noise would have definitely woken us up. So, once again, we left with a story to tell. So I was curious if anyone else had experiences there, especially in the rooms that we spent the night in. Please share your experiences. This story comes from TotallyNotABot 25. Former jail deputy. Saw a ghost at work during night shift. Disclaimer, I'm not the best storyteller, but I'm not here to dramatize or exaggerate a spooky story either. Just thought I'd give my real experience. Nothing super crazy, but I hope this is the right place to share it. Also, trigger warning for anyone sensitive to the topic of someone unaliving themselves. After I graduated last May, I decided to take up a job at my local jail. Nothing long term, just figured I'd work a year and save up some cash before college. Flash forward a little bit, and I'm only a few weeks into training. I've always liked the idea that ghosts really existed, but at that point I really couldn't say I ever actually saw one. However, that all changed while taking post one night. The time was a little after 5 a.m., and I'm sitting behind my desk absolutely bored to tears. So, being a good little deputy, I was spinning around in my chair, honestly trying not to fall asleep. This was hour 11 of a 12-hour shift, so I'm just killing time before I get to go home. Now, to give you a little visual of the where I am, I'm in a big, giant room with a bunch of cells. At one end of the room is the officer's desk with big windows behind it. These windows are super reflective, so officers can look into the pods from the hallway, but inmates can't look out into the hallway from inside the pods. At the other end of this pod are all the cells. This particular pod has some cells that were behind a second pane of glass. Still with me because this is important, I promise. Anyways, I'm spinning around in my chair at my desk and happen to glance up at the reflective windows behind the desk. As I do, some movement catches my eye upstairs. There's someone walking around upstairs, out of their cell, but behind the glass. I stare in disbelief for a moment and instantly freak the fuck out. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of, holy fucking shit, who the hell is out of their cell at this hour? Oh man, my ass is fucking grass, man. I quickly turn around and see no one up there. I scramble and check the monitors that give me control of the cell doors and make sure all of them are locked. which they are. I even go up there myself and make sure everything is as secure as it can be. Somewhere in the middle of me making sure I'm not about to get fired, it dawned on me. That was a motherfucking ghost. There was no mistaking it. I 1000% saw someone up there. Now, I don't mean I saw a quick little shadow or a suspicious-looking speck of dust. No, I was distinctly looking at someone in an orange jumpsuit walking around up there. I could tell you this guy's haircut, his height, general build, and even what kind of beard he had. To be honest, I was totally banking on this happening at some point. I mean, from my first day, I could tell this place was uber haunted. So I immediately get my corporal on the horn and tell her excitedly that I saw a ghost. But things don't end there. After that, I was bragging to anyone and everyone about my little encounter, with some mixed reactions. My sergeant says he doesn't really believe in ghosts, but some deputies told me they've definitely seen some paranormal stuff on duty too. However, it's the sergeant on the day shift's experience that really stuck with me. He told me that they had an inmate commit suicide in the same pod a few years prior. I had already been told that by a few people who've been there a while. I gave a description of the guy I saw, and we decided to look up the inmate just to see if they looked the same. It was him. It was definitely the guy I saw walking around upstairs, right down to his skinny face and the billy goat beard. There was no mistaking it. I've talked to some inmates about it, and I've had more than one tell me that sometimes they see or hear someone walking by their cells and peeking in at late hours of the night. It can't be a correctional officer they're talking about because they're always wearing an orange jumpsuit. Well, that's my spooky experience. I didn't really have any notable encounters after that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I hope you found this interesting. This story comes from Just the Right Guy 4. The dark shadow I saw in Eastern State Penitentiary. Me and my girlfriend went to Eastern State Penitentiary pre-pandemic, and the scariest thing in my life happened. Anyone who has been to Eastern State Pen will tell you that you basically pay to walk around a jail that is falling apart. It stinks, it's gross, and kind of dangerous. The history of it is cool, though. Me and my girlfriend decided to forego the tour and just see things on our own. It was cool at first. We walked around and looked through the cells. We ventured into the areas that weren't crumbling. It was fun. I'd say it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and there weren't a lot of people in there with us. It was still sunny out for July. We went to a certain cell block, and I started to feel sick. I just stood at the end because I didn't want to move. I felt like something didn't want me there. She was halfway down the block, though, and in one of the cells talking and laughing. I watched as this thing came out of a cell maybe like 40 feet in front of me. It was ink black, like a man fully made of black ink. That's the only way my mind could process it at the time for some reason. It made no sense, but my brain had almost short-circuited. It looked fully human and solid black. I couldn't see through it, and it had no face or features. I have never been so scared in my life. I couldn't run, though. My feet were glued to the floor. The feeling that this thing gave off was enough to make me sick. I felt this tightness in my chest and this overwhelming anxiety. I just kept thinking, I shouldn't be here. It doesn't want me here. I shouldn't be here. I remember it so vividly. I just kept repeating the words in my head. Me and this thing just stood face to face for a solid minute. Then it just moved into another cell. When it was gone and out of my sight, my brain began to fully process what I had just seen. My body jerked to life, and I sprinted so fast out of that cell block. I grabbed my girlfriend, and we left the prison entirely. I still have nightmares about it, just facing off with it. The thoughts were so intense that it wanted me gone, that I didn't belong there. I'm Haitian, and my mom still has her roots in Native culture. She said it was never human to begin with. It was something made of evil. I'm not sure because it had a human form, though. I also never usually buy into the cultural myths like that, too. I'm an atheist. I will never forget it, and I don't recommend going to Eastern State Pen. This story comes from FunSunAndBravo. Saw and felt something, but we were alone. I've debated sharing this story as I didn't know how well it would fit in here, but I figured I'd post it. If there was ever a community that would support it, it would probably be this one. It was about 2015. I, then 33-year-old female, was dating my boyfriend, now husband at the time. Let's call him Andrew. He lived in Houston, and I was visiting him for the weekend as I lived in another city. He shared a rancher-style home built in the 1960s with two other roommates, a buddy I'll call Gary and his buddy's girlfriend. We typically went out with each other weekends when I was in town, but that particular night, each couple did their own thing. Andrew and I had just gotten home from dinner. We checked in with his roommates to see what they were up to. They said they were still at dinner and would be back in a few hours. We decided to watch TV for a little bit, then go ahead and shower and call it an early night. I showered in Andrew's shower while he used the guest room just down the hall. I took about a 10-minute shower and got out. The bathroom was pretty steamy, so I opened the door. I figured with it just being me and Andrew there for a while, there wasn't any risk of anyone else seeing me in all my naked glory. I was hunched over the sink, completely naked, mind you, when I saw someone walk by the door down the hall in a rush. And you know when you can feel someone's presence? I felt it passing by the bathroom too. I flipped out, assuming his roommate had gotten home early and Gary had come onto Andrew's side of the house to see what we were up to, and upon realizing I was naked, tried to quickly leave unnoticed. I wrapped myself in a towel and went to the guest room where Andrew had been showering. He was getting dressed as I told him Gary just saw me naked, and I was really upset and embarrassed. He gave me a confused look and said that was impossible as he had just gotten a text from them that they were wrapping up dinner and would be home soon. I'm guessing the color from my face drained as Andrew literally said, "Why? It looks like you've seen a ghost or something." At that point, a ghost wasn't on my mind. I honestly thought someone must have broken in and was inside. I made him check the house and a garage while I stayed hidden in the room. No one was there. Now, I was never a non-believer in the paranormal, but I also wasn't an active believer. I never had a reason to be with no interactions before. But I remember that night like it was yesterday. I know I saw something and definitely felt something. I don't know enough about the paranormal to answer why that was the only experience I had in this house in the 2 years he lived there. As far as I know, it has no morbid or dark backstory. Maybe it was a one-off encounter. Maybe it was my imagination. But I've been a believer ever since. Thank you for listening to this episode of Whispers from the Beyond, True Ghost Stories. If you have a story you'd like to share, please email me at hauntedhtx@gmail.com. I want to thank Starshinefairy, TotallyNotABot 25, Just the Right Guy 4, and FunSunAndBravo for letting me share their stories. Come connect with me on Instagram. The link will be in the description. Finally, please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review so more people can find the show. That's all for now. Bye, y'all.